And I'm Sam Teets.
Thank you guys for tuning in and joining us on The Grueling Truth, where legends speak. Before we start, I want to let you guys know that we're brought to you by betting.net, your best bet for sportsbook and casino sites. So head on over to betting.net. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, on the NFL Draft Show, it is Mock Draft Monday. It's my favorite day of the week. Who doesn't like a good mock draft? I know I love them. I know Science loves them. I know you guys love them. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to go 1 through 32. We're going to ping pong these picks. And since Sam started us off last time with the Jaguars, I will be starting us off this time. And we'll be, like I said, ping ponging every pick. We'll have a minute on the clock from the minute we start until the clock runs out or you make your pick. Some will be done a little quicker than a minute. Some might take a little more. It's going to be as we go on. Expect plenty of clock blocking. Sam, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go, man.
Let's do it, dude. All right. So here we go. With the first pick in our mock draft, March 21st, 2022. The Jaguars are on the clock. And they've had a very interesting free agency period. They've thrown a lot of money around. They've made a lot of key moves, but they still have key needs on the edge, at receiver, in the secondary. And there's rumors flying around that they do like Derek Stingley, they like Jameson Williams, they like a couple of these guys, but they're not going to take any of those guys up this high. Let's be real. And while I still think offensive line is, or at least should be in the conversation, we've seen what goes on in Cincinnati when you have a superstar quarterback and he's not protected. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, I guess, but they didn't win the chip because of their offensive line. The Jaguars' offensive line still could use some help. I don't like Cam Robinson, but with all the moves they made, I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson, edge rusher from Michigan. He's the safest pick, and he's been at the top almost all season. So that's it. Clock, second overall, Detroit Lions. Let's see how disgusted I get, Sam.
Well, I'm pretty sure Detroit recently cut Trey Flowers. Not that Trey Flowers is much of an impact player for them this past year anyways. But we're looking at the Detroit Lions and their draftings right now. The offensive line is pretty much solidified. You can make an argument maybe right guard's still open. And maybe you draft Evan Neal here and the keys to play him at right guard. And then eventually kick him outside the tackle to avoid – no? All right, well, there you go. I mean, that says it all for you. Kayvon Thibodeau is the pick here. I mean, let's just make it nice and easy. I think guys like Kyle Hamilton maybe is right up there with Kayvon Thibodeau in terms of talent. But for a safety position at this point, it doesn't make sense when you can get a premier edge rusher and really change the game. Detroit has a couple of young guys at the edge rusher position right now. But Kayvon Thibodeau is a totally different player at this point.
So you're not buying the talk that he's falling?
I mean, I could buy it, but my question is, who do you take here instead? Like, if it's not going to be Evan Neal or Ekwonu, and it's not going to be Kayvon Thibodeau, are you really going to spend the second overall pick in the NFL draft on a safety? I mean, that's what I think. I'm really, like I said, you've taken a corner high before recently, and you've seen how that worked out. I don't think in a draft that's loaded with corners, it's a very deep class for corners. I don't think taking a corner up this high would make sense either.
Yeah, not the guys that are currently out there. Not Stingley, you don't trust it. Maybe at one point, but not anymore. And you're not taking Sauce third over a second over. We've seen what the Lions do with those corners, those corner picks high. But here we go. I'm pressing the wrong button. The Houston Texans are now on the board, third all. And if this is the way the board falls for them, I'm sure they're going to be ecstatic because they'll have their pick of the top two tackles. And yes, I know they already have a left tackle in Tunzel. Let's be honest. There's really nothing at right tackle. Even so, they can move the last year starter to guard, another young guy, big deal. Or take one of these two tackles, Neal or Ekwonu, and move them to guard, like you had suggested for the Lions. But I think in this case, it's going to be Ikem Ekwonu. I think his stock has risen to the point where guaranteed top four, he might be the top pick. I'm buying that for sure. And while Evan Neal might be the safer pick more immediately, Ekwoni's just got that physicality, mauling game that you look for in today's NFL, and the athleticism stands. All right, so fourth overall, New York Jets are on the clock.
Yeah, it makes it nice and easy. We're going to go Evan Neal here. People might be wondering, well, why we're going to do this. We have Mekhi Becton already on a rookie contract. He's going to come back from his injury that caused him most of this past year and play at left tackle. George Fant was actually really good last year. I think you can make the argument he deserves to start at right tackle for the Jets. However, you're bringing Evan Neal because Mekhi Becton, I mean, if the rumors are true, the Jets organization was not happy with him last year. They were not happy with him. They were not happy with how he managed his weight. And obviously, weight was the conversation we had about Mekhi Becton going into the 2021 NFL draft, or 2020 NFL draft, excuse me. So if that's going to be a problem long-term and a cause to have more lower body injuries, I think you have to maybe plan a little bit for the future. Evan Neal here could arguably be the top overall pick in the draft, and you're getting him at 4. That's good value regardless of you playing at guard or a tackle.
All right, Evan Neal it is, 4th overall to the Jets. And here we go, the New York Football Giants sitting 5th overall. They got their pick of the litter. Do they go with maybe the best defensive class in Kyle Hamilton? Do they beef up their secondary with Ahmad Gardner? No. They still need to add to that offensive line. I think Charles Cross makes it past Carolina. And I know we've ping-pong crossed between the Giants and Carolina, and maybe he dropped out of the top 10 once earlier on in one of our mocks, but I think he's a solid top 10 player in this class. And if you don't think he's going to fall past 5, you don't think you're going to get him at for whatever reason, you take him here. Nice and simple. I know the Giants have made moves on their offensive line. They added, they re-signed Matt Bono. They re-signed Mark Lewinsky. So they got pieces. They brought in John Feliciano, but both of those guys, they still need help at right tackle. Dan Jones or Tyrod Taylor need all the help that they can get. And with that, 6 overall, the Carolina Panthers are on the clock.
Yep, you went and did it to me. I'm going to tell you that. You went and absolutely did. For some reason, I wasn't even considering the fact that Giants was going to draft the tackle at 5. I just skipped right over that. I was like, Charles Cross at 6. Easy selection. And now we're at 6, and Trevor Penning's the top tackle on the board. I don't love it.
That's what happens.
I don't love any of this.
The draft, baby.
Yeah. I mean, sadly, and I don't agree with this selection. I'll just go out there and say it right now. But the pick's going to be Malik Willis. And again, I don't condone this, but the other options really at this spot that make sense are Trevor Penning, who I don't think belongs in the top 10 discussion, even though some people are putting him up that high. I don't buy that at all. Their best player, maybe Siobhan Walker's an edge is really good, so is Jermaine Johnson, but they've drafted edge rushers like crazy down in Carolina. You just drafted J.C. Horn is pretty good, but you re-signed Dante Johnson. Are you going to go out and get another corner for that group? I don't think so. Or Dante Jackson, excuse me. So I think that really, when it comes down to it, Matt Rule is desperate for his job. The only way to prolong his stay in Carolina is to draft a rookie quarterback and have him play well. That's his only hope.
That's it.
I mean, that's all he's got. I think he's done either way. But this is the only chance he has of staying there longer.
Fair enough. And with that, the first quarterback is off the board at 6 overall to the Carolina Panthers. I know they sent a full full group to Pitt's Pro Day, and Rule, their offensive coordinator, their quarterbacks coach, their general manager, their assistant general manager, everybody was there. And all the coaches talked to Pickett, directly, and they had him hold a football and all sorts of stuff. And I mean, take that for what you want to take it, but you don't send the whole crew to a pro day like that to scout a particular player if you don't have legitimate.
And I think going 6 overall would be pretty wild. That would be.
We get back to where we were earlier in the cycle, because he was up there in mocks early on. But enough with the Panthers. It is the Giants pick. I'm going to go with Ahmad Gardner here. There's still a possibility that they get rid of James Bradbury via trade. They already got Logan Ryan. They released him. He ended up going to Tampa Bay as a free agent. And they had anything in the secondary. So the secondary was a need going into the season, into the offseason, and it still is. So I'm going to go. The first corner is off the board, and that brings the Atlanta Falcons. Fresh off of a Matt Ryan trade.
Yeah, you trade Matt Ryan away, you sign Marcus Mariota. Man, you're basically admitting defeat this year. I don't think you can go into the season and reasonably expect to be a playoff caliber team. If you are, that's just poor planning, because there's no way you are going to make any noise in the playoffs whatsoever for this group. I think you have to admit defeat here and start playing a little bit long term. I would have loved to have taken a Maude Gardner here and made a Casey Hayward, AJ Terrell, and Maude Gardner be my secondary. But unfortunately, you kind of cut me off there. So I'm gonna go with Jermaine Johnson instead. And I understand taking him over Travon Walker would probably be a bit of a scrutinized move. But Travon Walker to me is very raw still, has to develop quite a bit. And maybe that fits the long-term plan for Atlantics. They are projected to be they're multiple years out from competing. But Jermaine Johnson to me is so much more polished, and I know his floor is higher than Travon Walker because I know for a fact he can have certain moves that he can do whenever he needs them to. And Travon Walker just is kind of more like this raw ball of power and doesn't really have much polish to him.
All right, so Jermaine Johnson, Florida State edge rusher, going 8th overall to the Falcons. And before we continue, I want to remind everybody that your top sportsbook comparison site is betting.net, and betting.net offers extensive reviews on the best sportsbook. So head on over to betting.net. All right, so here we go. Continuing on the clock. 9th overall, Seattle Seahawks. They got this via trade. They traded Russell, got this pick from Broncos. I think this is our first mock since any of this crazy stuff, has been going down. I think our next mock will have to do 2 rounds and do something real special. I wanted to do 2 rounds tonight, but we'll save it. We still got time. But anyway, so the Seahawks are on the board. We know they need a quarterback. They do need offensive line help. I mean, they pretty much need help all over the field. Receiver probably being the only position they don't need help at. But I don't trust taking like a Kenny Pickett here or any of these other quarterbacks. Corral, no. Despite everything we're hearing, I'm not buying it, especially not this high. But one thing Seattle does they like athletes. And one of the best athletes in the draft class also happens to fill a need. And I'm talking about Siobhan Walker. And I was a little unsure with all the love and hype he's been getting. We discussed he blew up at the combine. We know the tape. He has flashes of dominance. We know he can play pretty much anywhere on a hand in the ground in a 4-3 at the end, slide inside on obvious passing downs, play outside linebacker in a 3-4. He could do a little bit of everything, and the athletic profile is there. But I haven't with how high he's rising, and to hear that he might be for the first or second pick is, for me, it's a bit high for all that right now. It's a bit high. So 9th overall for me is okay, even though he's not that high on my board. But I think this is that's a good pick. Oh, here we go.
You got me a little nervous when you're talking about the best overall athletes in the class, and you were going through that whole spiel. I was afraid it was going to end up being Derek Stingley or Kyle Hamilton you're talking about, but now I get to choose which one of those guys I want with the Jets at 10. They obviously have needs in the secondary. And people will say, the Jets don't draft corners. They don't value corners that highly. The Robert Saleh defense and all that. Robert Saleh's defense was at its best when they had Richard Sherman performing at the level of a second-team All-Pro. So I don't want to hear any of that because that defense has never been the same since you lose Richard Sherman. So I'm looking at the corners right now. They got DJ Reed, who they signed this offseason. You have Bryce Hall, who's pretty good. Michael Carter's your nickel. He was the guy who drafted last year. The safety is Jordan Whitehead, Ashton Davis, and LaMarcus Joyner. You probably need more help at safety, but I'm going to go with Derek Stingley Jr. here. To me, this is just a value pick. This guy could potentially be the best corner in the class, and you're getting him at 10 without having to move up or down at all. So I think it's just if the medicals check out, it's a value pick.
All right, so the Jets go corner there, and they skip out on much-needed wide receiver. And they come out of the first round with Evan Neal, offensive tackle, Stingley, corner, 2 of the potentially maybe top 3 to 5 players in this class. But now move on. The Washington Commanders are now sitting for 11. They brought in their quarterback. They got Carson Wentz via trade from the Colts. And maybe he's their guy for the next couple of years, maybe not. I think quarterback would absolutely be in play here. But I'm going to go in a different direction. I wanted to go Kenny Pickett here, But I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to do something special. I think safety is very much in play. We know how much this team values their safeties. They had 3 guys who could start last year, and they lost one. Landon released him, so there's a space out there for safety. So a talented player like him could fit in very nicely. But I'm going to go wide receiver because I think they want to take things to the next level. I think they need to help Carson Wentz as much as they can, and I don't trust Curtis Samuel as my number 2. Now, while I'd like to take a Drake London here, I don't think he's the kind of receiver Carson Wentz likes, and I don't think he's the kind of receiver that would fit that offense because they're not a throw it up and see what happens kind of offense. They haven't been under Ron Rivera. They're more precision. They're more timing. That's why Scary Terry is such a volume beast in offense. They try to get their guys open. So I'm going to throw the first round. I'm going to go with Treylon Burks. And I think the Washington will buy into the A.J. Brown potential and how a talent like that, an A.J. Brown-like player could fit opposite Scary Terry and give Wentz a shot because they've got Terry, they've got a running back, they've got a tight end, and you're not taking an offensive line. They might need one. So I'm gonna go Burks. I'm gonna throw something out there, something different, mix it up.
That is interesting. Burks is an intriguing guy. I see more Laviska Shenault and Treylon Burks than anything else. To be fortunate,
I don't have him on my big board, but
yeah, of course. But
he's a first round grade for sure. So boom, first receiver off the board is Treylon Burks, and now the Vikings are on the clock overall.
Yeah, there are a couple of options for me here. I mean, the needs for this team: interior defensive line, edge rusher, corner, safety, basically mostly defensive stuff. And the guys they're probably going to look at: Devontae Wyatt and Jordan Davis on the interior defensive line, Trent McDuffie and Andrew Booth at corner, and Kyle Hamilton at safety. And it's just, I understand it's a new regime. They have not drafted corners well. I mean, the past regime was terrible at drafting corners for the most part. And they could really go corner here again, but I'm going to take Kyle Hamilton instead. I mean, this could be arguably the best overall athlete in the entire draft class. He's sitting here at 12. You don't move at all. You signed Harrison Smith recently to a long-term extension. You now bring in Kyle Hamilton. I understand that Cam Bynum is a really good player for them who could possibly play safety and possibly start. But Kyle Hamilton's a different breed of player.
You're not wrong, and there's a reason why a lot of people consider him potentially the best defensive player or best overall class. Are you buying the talk that he might move the linebacker at the next level because he's a bit big? He's not great man coverage on slot guys and stuff like that. Are you buying it?
I'm not really buying that just because we've seen the range on tape. Like, we've seen the ridiculous player he had where it came from the opposite hash, came all the way over to the sideline and made like a toe drag interception. He has the range. His times really didn't match the tape for me, which was kind of interesting. Some people have pointed out that his form on the 40, because you can lose time by bobbing, weaving back and forth and doing all this kind of stuff. They point out he had really bad form running that 40. I'm not trying to make an excuse for him, but I don't know. I don't think the times match up with his athletic ability that we've seen on the field. So I believe he is a safety. And could you play him in the box a lot? Yeah, you could. But I think he is a safety. And you can play him deep as well.
All right, and with that in mind, number 13 Texans are on the board. They got this pick this past week by trading Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns in a stunning turn of events. Mind-blowing. It was Atlanta and New England, and then all of a sudden Cleveland came out of left field and gave him the in NFL history, period. So, or at least at the position. I don't know. Regardless, they paid the man, and it's gross. And they gave up the pick. So the Texans are on the clock. And it's me. And
yeah, dude, I was like, it's not me. I'm not doing anything to this one.
I'm at the wheel, but I guess I wasn't paying attention. That's what happens, I guess. So the Houston Texans, they need everything. They took an offensive lineman before. They could literally take any position, and I would not fault them at all. I told David Ojabo getting hurt. We're going to talk about this at some point. I would have taken him right here. I think he would be a perfect fit on that defense. They need a good edge rusher, and he's damn good. But I think he tore his Achilles. It's disgusting. I think he'll be out for 6 to 8 months, 6 to 7 months, something like that, is the recovery. But it still sucks. He's a hell of a talent, and rising again. Great combine and everything, and great interviews. But wow, Houston Texans. You know what? I'll do something different. I'm gonna stick with the edge rusher, but I'm gonna go with George Karlaftis here. And now Karlaftis at one point was a potential top, but he's been dropping a bit, and he can go anywhere from the early teens to the early 20s, I think, at this point. I still like this guy. I don't care what anyone says. The tape doesn't lie. I like one, and I think he could be a very productive edge rusher, and not just a pass rushing guy, but he could be a 3-down player. I think anywhere in the top 15 to 20 picks is a win. Karlaftis, edge rusher from Purdue, 13th to the Texans. And now, Sam, you're on the board with the Baltimore Ravens.
You took him from me. I was really thinking about giving Karlaftis to Baltimore, but with him off the board, it does make my pick a little bit easier. This is a spot people will consider taking probably Jordan Davis or Devontae Wyatt. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with a corner instead. And it comes down to Trent McDuffie or Andrew Booth. For what Baltimore likes to do,
here we go.
I'm going to take Andrew Booth here.
I knew it. Had to be.
Yeah. For what they like to do, I think he's going to fit their mold pretty well. There's an opportunity here. Baltimore might trade or cut Marcus Peters. He's going to be a free agent after this upcoming year. He's due $15.5 million. It's only $5.5 million if you cut him in worth dead cap. So basically, you save $10 million. That's an option. I don't know if they'll do it or not, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Okay. And with time to spare. Here we go. And the Eagles, 15th overall. So Booth goes 14th to the Ravens. I'm on the clock with the Eagles with their first of 3 first-round picks, back-to-backs here, 15th overall. Now, Philly is an interesting team. They brought back Kelsey, which for me, I would have picked this spot for Tyler Linderbaum, who seems to be falling, and I get it. The measurables are disappointing with Linderbaum, but the tape, I don't know what you want from a player when the tape is that good. I get it. Short arms, lightweight, had trouble with big tackle, nose tackle. I get it. No one's perfect, okay? Even Kelsey gets smacked around from time to time from big boys. It happens. And he's the best run blocker at center NFL. But I'm not buying the Tyler Linderbaum hate. I don't think that man's dropping to the end of the first round, and I hope he doesn't here. But all that being said, all the love for that man aside, that was going to be the pick. But since they kept Kelsey, I'm going to change it. I'm going to go with McDuffie. I was a little concerned that you were going to take McDuffie in the last pick, but McDuffie's been a favorite of this show, especially a favorite of yours, since we started doing this show. And the love has not waned. In fact, he's grown on me as well as the process has gone on. And 15th overall seems like a pretty good range for him at this point. He's got a lot of fans around the league, and he's got fans on this show, and they need a corner. Opposite Darius Slay makes too much sense. They're still on the clock, though. 16th overall. Where are you going to go, Sam?
Yeah, McDuffie was a great grab. I got him at number 11 on my big board. But we're looking at what Philadelphia needs to attack for their second first-round pick. I still think they need defensive help. It's tough because I think you could draft an offensive lineman here somewhere for depth, but they kind of really have bought into the guys they have in that offensive line group right now, so it's hard to replace any of them, knowing that your starter guy you dropped in the first round might have to sit for a year. So I really don't think you can go offensive line here. Maybe wide receiver, but they have one more pick to think about that in the first round. Here, I want to get the guy who's going to eventually replace Fletcher Cox. I want to get Devontae Wyatt here, because he is the top defensive tackle in this class. And frankly, I don't know why the Eagles paid Fletcher Cox, I think $14 million to come back in a one-year deal. I don't know what they watched last year that made him think he was worth $14 million. Because his decline has been pretty steep the past 2 or 3 years. So $14 million on a one-year deal for him is kind of rich for me. I think Devontae Wyatt will be a good eventual replacement.
No concerns of any reports of Devontae Wyatt having character concerns that might drop him down boards a
I
bit?
can't really speak to any of that stuff because I don't know the guy. I have not been. I don't like these guys. The teams put so much research into this process. They'll pay people to research these guys, dig into their lives, find out about them. I have access to none of that. So as far as character concerns go, this could be teams just putting this stuff out there to try and make guys fall. They've done that before. We know they do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to tell what's real and it's rumor season. Like, it's hard to tell what's true and what's false. So I'm just going to keep plowing forward for now and just go with what I know about the player on the field.
Fair enough. All right. So Devontae Wyatt, defensive lineman from Georgia, going 16th. Eagles, back-to-back defensive picks for them. And now the easiest pick of the draft. I don't need to say much at all. I am going to just take Jordan Davis here. For me, he had been dropping on my board, one-trick pony. But, I mean, dude, you can't overlook what he did at the combine. You can't overlook the size. It's just oozing out of this man. And they need a defensive lineman, plugger, quick match. Jordan Davis, defensive lineman from Georgia, 17th to the Chargers. Now, 18th overall, the New Orleans Saints, fresh off of re-sign Jameis Winston. Do they go quarterback here? Bam, you're on the clock.
No, I don't think they do. They signed a 2-year contract with Jameis Winston. I think they're going to honor that for the most part. Just see where they go from here with him at the helm. But because it is Jameis Winston, you do need to add more pieces around him. Left tackle is going to probably be a need for them. Unfortunately, we don't have any left tackles that I really buy into on the draft board at this point. Wide receiver, though, could be a need. Depending on how Michael Thomas comes back, he might not be the same he used to be. But you do need some extra help there anyways. So looking at the board right now, my top 2 wide receivers, Jameson Williams and Drake London, are both out there. And I'm conflicted on which one to go for here. I'm going to go with Jameson Williams just because I think that speed factor adds a little bit more of a dynamic role to that offense. You already have Michael Thomas, who's going to be more of your short possession kind of receiver. Got a larger frame, larger body. Jameson Williams will add a different factor to that offense.
All right. Beauteous. Right at the buzzer. Literally a second left. Couldn't have done better if I did it myself. And now the Philadelphia Eagles are back again. 19th overall. So Jameson Williams receiver goes 18th to the Saints. And now here the Eagles sit. They've taken a corner. They've taken a defensive lineman. And they still have needs, I would say, at safety, linebacker, receiver, just to name a few. Maybe offensive line if they want, because their offensive linemen always seem good. But they're in a really good place right now to go with the best player. And, I mean, that could mean a number of different positions. But in this case, I think if you're going to go with Jalen Hurts, you're going to keep building it around him. And you're going to want to give him another weapon. I know they want to run the ball. That's part of the reason why they brought Kelsey back. Aside from his veteran leadership and the fact that he is one of the best centers in the league, he is, like I said earlier, the best run blocking center in football, maybe the best run blocking interior lineman in football. So they're going to want to run the ball, but they also need to make sure that they give this man a shot in the passing game. This would be a good spot for Drake London if he's still on the board. I know he might go a little higher than this. He can go to the Jets. I've seen a mock draft where he goes 2nd overall to the Lions. And I mean, it's a website that I thoroughly enjoy, and they are fairly reputable in the draft world online. But when I saw that, it was, you know, that meme where of that guy where it shows his face, he's watching. Then the second one, he closes his eyes. The third one, he's like,
yeah, he's like, what?
Yeah, that was me. I was like, what the fuck? I digress. If that guy is here, he can play hero ball. Best contested catch receiver in the draft. Just another piece on the outside for Jalen Hurts. And here you go. Mr. GM, Pittsburgh Steelers, 20th overall, sitting pretty. Linderbaum, Pickett, Zion, Garrett Wilson. You got your pick of the litter, bro. And you're on
I do.
Steelers.
And I know that it seems ridiculous because Pittsburgh has signed Mason Cole at center from Minnesota. They signed James Daniels at guard from Chicago. They re-signed their right tackle, Okorafor. I don't know why, but they gave him over $10 million a year. So that happened. That's a thing I have to deal with now. But, I mean, really, I would love for one of the top 5 corners to fall this far. Top 5, 4 corners. One of the top 4. That's not going to happen probably, unfortunately. That's what I would ideally want to get as a corner at the spot, considering all the money they just threw into the offensive line. But with those guys off the board, I still think it has to be an offensive lineman. It's between Zion Johnson and Tyler Linderbaum for me. I think they'll probably consider Trevor Penning if he falls this far in reality. I'm going to just go with Zion Johnson.
Ooh.
Because as much as I love Linderbaum, and I do because I've mocked him to Pittsburgh before, Zion Johnson is the most positional, versatile offensive lineman in the draft potentially. And I just want to draft a really good player that I know is going to be a consistent starter and make an impact at any spot I've thrown. So I just want to get someone who I know is solid.
That was going to be my pick for the Patriots because since they traded Shaq Mason to the Bucks, there's a gaping hole at guard. And as much as I love Tyler Linderbaum, I am on board with others and he can move to guard. I think he's a center and a center only.
Yeah.
And he looks like a Pittsburgh Steelers offensive lineman.
He does, which is why I'm very torn at that spot.
He does. He looks like your prototype Steelers offensive lineman, especially on the interior. But before I make this next pick, because the New England Patriots on the clock, I want to remind you guys that the Grueling Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding the online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. So head on over to betting.net. Now we're pretty much 2/3 of the way through this first round. The Steelers, Sam, just took Zion Johnson, offensive lineman from Boston College, who can play any position along the line. And now the Patriots are on the clock, 24 overall. And now this team is another one that can go in a number of directions. They've had a pretty solid offseason thus far. They brought back Devin McCourty at safety. They traded Shaq Mason, which is a little threatening, but they did bring in Trent Brown to start at tackle. Familiar with the team, familiar with the system. But I still think this team has needs at receiver, corner, safety. And you know what? Maybe they could stand to add another offensive lineman as well. But they're going with Mac at quarterback. And I think they should probably get him some weapons. I know Belichick doesn't do receivers in the first round. And I feel kind of dirty for even recommending this out loud because it's not going to happen. The Patriots will trade down before they do this, I think. But I'm going to give them Garrett Wilson. They run that timing offense. They need the receivers to have sure hands. They don't have much at the position. They have a young quarterback. Help the man. Help the young man. I don't like it. I feel dirty. But I'm going to go Garrett Wilson, wide receiver from Ohio State. 21st overall to the Patriots. Now, the Green Bay Packers have their first of 2 first-round picks at 22nd overall. This they got from the Raiders in a trade, letting go of Devontae Adams. And are you a little disgusted that I took Garrett Wilson right there?
Oh, would you look who's picking right now? The most wide receiver needy team in the draft. Isn't it just so convenient? That New England Patriots can never draft receivers in the first round. Suddenly draft Garrett Wilson. No, it's
weird.
Yeah, weird how that works out. But no, I was ready to put Garrett Wilson in Green Bay uniform. I was just ready to do it. But you took him from me. At this point, Green Bay doesn't pick again for another couple of spots. You could make the bet that Chris Olave doesn't fall that far.
Mm-hmm.
Between Arizona, that probably needs a receiver. Dallas, that just might take one for the heck of it because they do that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, Tennessee, Tampa Bay. I don't think Chris Olave will get that far. Maybe he does in this draft because it's us. But in reality, I don't think he'll get that far. So I'm going to take Chris Olave and just lock it in here because I don't think there's going to be better receiving options at 28. And they're desperate.
Desperate is a nice way of putting it. Aaron is – he might just retire mid-season if they don't do something about this. All right, so there you go. Another receiver off the board, back-to-back, and that's 4 receivers in the last 5 picks. So 18 was Jameson Williams, 19 was Drake London, 21 Garrett Wilson, 22 Chris Olave. And now the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock, and they have pretty clear needs. And they are another team that's had a solid offseason. But they need edge help. That's a big one. They still need corner help, even though they signed Jeff Gladney. And I kind of want to say offensive line could also be a need. But I think at this point, Do they reach for Arnold Ebiketie right here, who's gotten some love since the Senior Bowl, showed out at the Combine? Do they go that route? Do they Trevor Penning fall? Because he's fallen. I think he could at the end of the day we can go much higher than this, maybe even top 10.
Yeah, he could.
This would be another good one for Ojabo if he were on the board. Oh my God!
Yeah,
Come on, Mike, get me.
This is the first one where the thinking has really taken a long time for the pick. Like we heard in that time though in the draft, we get this late, and suddenly you need to start stalling for time a little bit while you're trying to make your picks.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Arnold Ebiketie here. They need an edge rusher from Chandler Jones leaving. They seem to know what they're doing on that side of the ball. Why not? Overall, Arnold Ebiketie, edge rusher from Penn State, and now the Dallas Cowboys are on the clock, 24th overall.
Yeah, and they have two options here. It's Tyler Linderbaum or Trevor Penning. It's which one do you want? I mean, they need to fix that offensive line that was so dominant maybe 5 or 6 years ago. That was really the engine of their offense. And now you got Tyler Biadasz, however you say his name. He's your center right now. And Terrence Steele is your projected starting right tackle. That will not fly. So this is going to be a little bit of a problem here. So I really don't know which. It's a Pittsburgh Steelers situation all over again. I don't know which lineman to take in this position. I will say you can get by with a below-average center. You probably can't get by with Terrence Steele as your starting right tackle. And given that we know people around the league love Trevor Penning more than we do, I'm going to make it Trevor Penning here.
Penning? Okay. Trevor Penning, offensive tackle, Northern Iowa, with time to spare on the clock. You're good at this. Me, I suck. But now
we do have someone in the comments. We do have someone in the comments asking who the Texans got at 3 and 13. Well, at 3 they got Ike McWanu, and then at 13 they got George Karlaftis. So two guys who, I mean, arguably are top 10 in this class potentially. At least were top 10 maybe 2 months ago. So two very good picks for the Texans.
That is L.Smith11 on YouTube. Thank you, L, for checking in. And feel free to ask any other questions you may have as we go on throughout this mock draft. We are on the 25th pick, the Buffalo Bills right now. We are almost done. And I'm on the clock. So I think this one's pretty straightforward. Buffalo is a team that does not have many holes. They do not have any needs at all on either side of the ball. Bringing in Von Miller was a huge get, a big win for this team. But no team is perfect, and every team can use talent somewhere. Roger Saffold was a great get. Von Miller was a great get. O.J. Howard at tight end is a solid get. But losing A.J. Klein may sting a little bit. And I think Devin Lloyd would be a perfect piece for this defense. He can do a little bit of everything. It might be a fair range for the 25th overall pick. I've been playing with Lloyd dropping out of the first round because teams don't really care about linebackers or off-ball linebackers all too much. But this guy could do it all, and he's a modern linebacker, good size. It would be Dean if Dean weren't, under 6 foot, which unfortunately NFL teams do hold against players. So I'm going to go Devin Lloyd here, linebacker from Utah. And now we got Sam, 26 overall, Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, you took my easy cop-out pick, Ariane. So now I have to spend some real time thinking about this. Tennessee just traded for Robert Woods, coming off a torn ACL. Should be back in time for the start of the season if his rehab goes normally at this point. Maybe need some help along the offensive line, but we're really not in a position to give him that, considering what the board looks like right now.
It's getting ugly down here. It's getting ugly.
Yeah, it is. It's getting tough. I mean, it's hard to shoehorn any of these guys into like first round value.
Yep.
I mean, I would like Linderbaum obviously isn't how Ojabo is, but those guys I wouldn't really consider for this team at this point.
I am shocked and disgusted that
Linderbaum's here.
Disgusted.
Yeah. Not much I can do about that, unfortunately.
It's about finding a fit.
Linderbaum's that's the problem. Not many teams are going to be willing to pick a center over other needs.
That's part of the reason why he's dropped on my big board. The talent is undeniable on tape, but you're playing center. You could
Yeah, I'm
be
going
the
to
best
go
center
over
in
the time.
football.
I can already tell you, I'm going to go over the time limit for a second. Just bear with me while I look one thing up.
Please. You know, it's a mock, and we're on 26. We're good. We're making good time.
I need to figure out who their starting left guard is going to be.
That is a thing. They did lose Roger Saffold. He, like I mentioned, they pretty sure they cut him or whatever, and he went to Buffalo. So
yeah, they cut him.
So that's something to consider here, and I'm sure that is something they'll be looking at.
Yeah,
they did re-sign Ben Jones at center, so he'll start at either center or guard for them. They brought in Austin Hooper to start at tight end, so you Robert Woods, like you mentioned. So they filled some holes. They brought back Harold Landry, which was a huge thing for them. They signed Jamarco Jones to a 2-year deal at guard, so maybe he'll be in contention.
Yeah, well, he's not going to start those. Kenyon Green's going to start there. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to take Kenyon Green here. And possibly rob your Tampa Bay Buccaneers of that pick.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock, and this is my pick, 27th overall. So Kenyon Green, tackle guard from Texas A&M, who might fall out of the first round. I don't think he should. I love the talent of this kid, and I think the versatility will suit him at the next level. But here comes Tampa Bay, another team, Super Bowl contenders, and another one that doesn't really have that many holes. They can go best player available, beef up edge rusher, get help at corner, even though they brought back Davis, help on the defensive line, perhaps. But the value is dwindling, and it's at this point, as we saw picks ago, it's going to come down to who these teams like. Are we going to see a Boye Mafe here? Are we going to see a Jalen Petrie, Perion Winfrey, perhaps? I'm going to go with Jahan Dotson. They brought back Tom Brady. They want to make moves. They're still competing for a championship. And as I'm glad to see my buddy Vance is watching. He's a Tampa Bay Bucks fan. And he says, good choice, Daniel. Well, thank you, Vance. I appreciate the love. But no, Dotson would start right away. He would step in for Antonio Brown. And even though they brought back Chris Godwin, he is coming off of injury. And you just want to give Tom Brady more weapons. F it. Why not? Keep the GOAT feeling young. And the Green Bay Packers back on the board, 28th overall. They took Chris Olave with the 22nd overall pick, the pick that they got from the Raiders for trading Devontae Adams. So now they're sitting at 28th with their original pick in the first round. The Green Bay Packers are on the clock.
Yeah, if Aaron Rodgers was the general manager, they probably would mess around here and get Sky Moore or George Pickens. Just double down on wide receiver. And frankly, I mean that's not, depending on what your board looks like, depending on how you evaluate George Pickens' injury, that might not be a bad choice. But I'm not going to do that. Looking at what's left right now, I have some concerns about Preston Smith's long-term projection with the team. I imagine it's getting to the point with his contract. I haven't looked at his contract yet, but I imagine we're getting to the point where you'll probably cut him to save money long-term. And if that's the case, because they already got rid of Zadarius Smith, if you're going to move on from Preston Smith, you need someone who can replace him. And Boye Mafe, really good at the Senior Bowl, fantastic player, elite athlete, really starting to rise up boards here as we get closer to the draft. I think he's the pick here.
Wow, okay. Hold on a second. I got to go down a little bit. All right, here we go. Boye Mafe, edge rusher from Minnesota, 20 overall. And now the Miami Dolphins sitting pretty in the first round, 29th overall. Now, I'm a little conflicted here because Kenny Pickett's still on the board, and this team doesn't seem like they really want to buy in, all in on Tua. But Linderbaum is still on the board, and they do need a center. And if he drops this far, I think this is a no-brainer. You would run to the podium. So I'm going to go, no, I don't think in real life he's going to drop this far come draft day. I'm going to go Tyler Linderbaum here, center from Iowa, plug and play, 10-year starter. The Chiefs are on the clock. Sam, you're on the board.
All right. And I think the way it's trending right now, David Ojabo probably will fall out of the first round. But, I mean, I'm not taking him here if I'm Kansas City. I'm ready to compete for a Super Bowl. I'm not about to take a guy who might have to sit for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at what the Chiefs have available and looking at the board, wide receiver is somewhat picked over. I could see a team loving Sky Moore, George Pickens, or Christian Watson enough to have him go in the first round. I could totally see that happening, especially in the back end of the first round. But I'm not really going to trend that way today. Kaiir Elam is there. I think that'd be a great pick. Daxton Hill is there. That was going to be another great selection. Of the two, I'm going to lean towards Kaiir Elam. I know Daxton Hill can play in the slot a little bit, but Kaiir Elam, I think, will fit that schema and help them just immediately on the outside because they do need cornerback help quite a bit. Or at least depth.
Kaiir Elam, cornerback from Florida. And with that, the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and I have this pick. Cincinnati came into the offseason with clear needs along the offensive line. Pretty much everywhere except left. And I think they've done a pretty good job of addressing those needs. They signed Alex Kappa from the Bucs at guard, Ted Karras, guard, who can also play center. They brought in Lyle Collins, which is a big get from Dallas. He can play guard. He can play tackle. And before I make my pick, Gunner's boss, hail up. With 2 1s and 2 2s, who should the Packers package for as replacement for Adams? So we'll go back to that in a hot second, and I'll put that back on the board. But this Bengals offense, I think they could still very much go offensive line. So I think a guy like Bernard Raymond is very much in play here. He can play tackle and guard for them early on. And I think that would still be a good piece because you can never have too many good linemen. But they are a good tight end away from being a complete offense. And I still think we see a Trey McBride go in the first round. Teams are always looking for mismatches, and he could be one, and he is the best tight end in this class. I still think he's more of a second-round pick. You have a chance to complete your offense, you do it. I'm going to go on Trey McBride.
All right. Do we want to hit that Packers question first?
Yes.
Or do you want to do the...
Yes, let's get that Packers done. So 2 1s, 2 2s. Are they keeping those picks, Sam, or do you see them packaging any of those picks for a top talent if anyone's available?
I mean, their first pick is at what, 22? Yeah, I mean they're gonna really have to do some scouting to figure out that block of the Saints, the Eagles, and then Pittsburgh, and then New England. They really need to figure out and do some research on their competitors and find out what those guys are doing. Because if they're not going to go, if maybe just 2 of them are going receiver, you might just want to wait and then just draft 2 of them. Draft 1 in the first round, draft 1 in the second round. And you're pretty much good. It's a good class. We know there's a history of finding starting receivers in the second round. They turn into really good players. So you might be able to just sit and wait and not have to trade up at all.
Adams,
but if you find out if you find out in our draft though that the Saints and the Eagles and the Patriots are all going to take wide receivers, with the chance that maybe the Chargers or Steelers do it, yeah, you might want to move up. And if you're going to target anyone for Aaron Rodgers, I would think you would want someone who can get downfield a little bit. But we know that downfield threat isn't always the most versatile player. I think Drake London is the best receiver in this draft. If he's available, I could see them trading it for him. Maybe Jameson Williams, but those are the only 2 I would move up for. Although some people like Garrett Wilson, so I could see that as well. Some people really like Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, and they might very well as well. And one more from Gunner's boss. He said, hail up, Dan and Sam. Gunner's boss says this draft is rumored to be loaded with talent at the receiver position. And it absolutely is. I mean, if you take a Pickens in the second round or a Christian Watson or, hell, a David Bell, who I'm still a fan of, those are all wins. But now we get to our final pick. The Detroit Lions are on the clock, and Kenny Pickett is still there. What's it going to be?
Is that saying you want Kenny Pickett? This is your team. I'll let you have some influence here.
No, I don't want any influence. You're the GM. You make the pick.
Right.
That's it.
All right. And the pick is David. No, I'm kidding. I don't think Ojabo will go here. I don't think he'll take Ojabo. Even though it would be interesting. It really would be, because at this point, you know you're not going to win this year.
Mm-hmm.
If this guy's really a top 15 player, I'm talking myself into doing this. This guy's a top 15 player. But you drafted an edge rusher already, so we take our hands off the wheel here. We're not going to draft the job. We already took an edge rusher in the first round. We already took Kayvon Thibodeau. We're not going to double up. Although that is intriguing, but
very much.
Just looking at what's left on the board right now, not a ton of guys I love. Ojabo, who I already mentioned, would be all right. There's Nakobe Dean, but I don't think that's a necessity per se. I don't think he bites enough ankles or enough kneecaps really for Dan Campbell. Maybe too small to do that. The guy I like quite a bit actually is Daxton Hill, because he's a versatile player, can play in the slot for you, can play safety. I know they brought back some guys to play safety for them this year, but it's not like a loaded safety group in Detroit right now. If you're looking just for a very versatile defensive back who can do a little bit of everything for you, Daxton Hill's the guy.
Wow.
So I'm going Daxton Hill.
Daxton Hill, the defensive back from Michigan. Okay, so that wraps, folks. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter. I am on both. And I know, Sam, you're on Twitter. Sam, what's your handle?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Sam_Teets33. That's where you get updates on my latest content. There's also a link there in my pinned tweet to my newsletter that posts on it 3 or 4 times a week. You can sign up for free with your email, and you'll get updates whenever I post and get my latest content as quickly as possible.
Perfect. And I am DB Talking Sports. D as in Dan, B as in Bob. So for Sam Teets, I am Dan Kornhauser. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys who were watching to give us any questions or concerns. Give us a follow, give us a like, share with your friends. This was the NFL Draft Show. I hope you guys enjoyed Mock Draft Monday. We'll catch you guys next week.